Hello Year 7, it's Ms Redmond here with a brief summary PowerPoint about the particle model. So on this slide you can see the learning objectives. They are to describe how materials are made up of particles and to use the particle model to explain why different materials have different properties. Materials. A material is a type of stuff that things are made up of. So you've got some examples of materials there. We've got plastic, wood, glass and metal. There are absolutely millions of different materials. There are millions of different types of stuff that things can be made of. So what materials can you see around you now? Pause the video for a minute and write down any examples that you can see of materials. Particles. Materials are made up of particles, but particles are too small to see. Even using a microscope, you have to use a very, very, very high-powered microscope to be able to see individual particles. They are so small that there are that number of water particles in a glass of water. This is a picture showing you, giving you an idea of how particles make up materials. So there's lots and lots and lots of tiny spheres, tiny balls that are too small to see, packed into every single material that you can see around you. Mixtures. Lots of materials are actually mixtures. That means they're made up of more than one substance. The examples we've got are wood, milk and air. They're all mixtures of more than one substance. Can you think of any other mixtures? As a hint, you can make a mixture by adding two or more substances together. So why don't you pause the video now and write down any examples of mixtures that you can think of. Substance. A substance is made out of just one type of particle. That means it's not a mixture, so we could say that it's pure. Gold, water and helium are all examples of substances. Can you name any other pure substances? Pause the video now and write down your ideas. Properties. A property is a description of what a substance looks like or how it behaves. And the properties of a substance depend on its particles, how they're arranged and how they move around. So for an example, gold is dense, shiny and it conducts electricity, and that's what those three pictures are showing you. The one on the left is gold in water, and the gold has sunk in the water because it's more dense than water. The middle picture is of some very shiny gold bars and coins, and the picture on the right hand side is of an electric circuit board. Gold is used in circuit boards because it is such an excellent conductor of electricity. So properties, density of gold and water. Density is an idea that we're going to be coming back to quite often during your science at school. So something dense or density is how much a fixed volume of substance weighs, not how heavy it is. I know that might sound like it's the same thing, but bear with me. So gold is more dense than water. That means that 1 centimetre cubed of gold weighs more than 1 centimetre cubed of water. So 1 centimetre is a measurement of volume. It's a measurement of how much space something takes up. So the same volume, the same amount of space taken up by some gold weighs more than the same amount of space of water. So that's what the next bullet point says effectively. If I had the same volume of gold and water, the gold would be heavier. If I had the same weight of gold and water, the water would take up more space than the gold. But I could have a lot of water, like a swimming pool in the picture, and a small amount of gold, like a ring in the picture below, and the swimming pool would be heavier than the ring. So that's why we have to make a distinction between weight, or how heavy something is, and its density. Properties, types of properties. So there are lots and lots of different types of properties, and this is another thing that we'll be coming back to again and again in school science. We've just talked about density. Another one is state at room temperature, so whether something is a solid, a liquid or a gas at room temperature, which is about 21 degrees C, probably the temperature of the room you're sitting in now. Boiling or melting point means the temperature that something changes from a liquid to a gas in the case of boiling, or the temperature at which something changes from a solid to a liquid in case of melting point. Hardness in science has a very specific meaning. It means how easily something is scratched. So if you think of a rock and a lump of cheese, the rock is harder than the cheese because it can scratch the cheese. Strength, there's lots and lots of different types of strength. One is the type of strength where you bend something. So if something is strong, you can bend it a lot before it will break. If something is weak, it won't take much bending before you can break it. Shiny or dull, whether something looks shiny or whether it doesn't. The opposite of shiny is dull. A conductor or insulator of electricity, so that means whether or not it allows electricity to pass through it. And conductor or insulator of heat means whether or not it allows heat to pass through it. You've also got colour is a property, because that's the description of what something looks like. Whether something's brittle or flexible. So brittle means if you bend it, it will break easily. For example, a stick of spaghetti is very brittle because when you bend it, it breaks. Also, you might like to try this at home. I've been told that if you hold a piece of spaghetti by both ends and bend it, it always breaks into 3 pieces. Try it out and see if that's true. Flexible means something that you can bend a lot without it breaking. So one of your flexible rulers or a piece of fabric, like a piece of clothing, is flexible. Malleable means you can bend it and it will hold its shape. Now this is important when we're talking about metals. Maybe you've tried to hammer a nail into a wall and it's bent and it stays in that shape. So that's malleable. Ductile means something that you can pull and it'll form into a wire. So again, we're mainly talking about metals there. Something smell is a property, and viscosity is a property of liquids. It means how runny a liquid is. So for example, water has very low viscosity, but something like treacle or golden syrup has a very high viscosity, because it's not very runny. So something viscous is not runny, and something with low viscosity is very runny. The following things are not properties of materials: weight, size, volume and shape. The reason for that is it depends how much of the material you have, and in the case of shape, how you form it. So those you could argue are properties of objects, but they're not properties of materials. So again, we've got the difference between weight and density there. Okay, particles. So the properties of material depend on what its particles are, how they're arranged, and how they move around. And I've got a picture on this slide showing you the particle model of solid, liquid, and gas. This is a model which we're going to come back to again and again during school science, and we will do a bit more on that next lesson. Okay, this is a fun bit. This picture is showing you a material which is called an oobleck substance. So if you're interested, search on the internet how you can make an oobleck material. You can do it at home and let me know how you get on. This is your summary slide. Materials are the stuff that things are made of. So you know from primary school science that there's a difference between the stuff that something's made of and the thing itself, right? So the stuff that something's made of is a material. Materials are made up of particles which are too tiny to see. Mixtures are made up of more than one substance, and substances are made up of only one type of particle. Properties describe what a material looks like or how it behaves.